This is a Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 65.
I just went ahead and put 500 on the E-Trade account. So I said, hey, a stock is a stock is a stock. So I just went out and bought a couple of random stocks. No research whatsoever.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host.
He enjoys creating spreadsheets for, everything. What a nerd. You know, I have to be the only announcer in the world that has a pie chart on his script and read it in Excel. Thanks.
ClayTrader.
And he is not kidding around. I do have spreadsheets for absolutely anything. Couple examples. I do enjoy shooting guns. So if you want to know the prices of anything per bullet, 9mm, anything like that, let me know. I have it all documented in a spreadsheet. When I decided, I'm getting kind of large and I wanted to get on a diet, I created a spreadsheet for that. So if you want to know the calories per ounce of broccoli or apples or bananas or chicken, let me know. I have all those in a spreadsheet. And yes, it took me time to put together. Yes, I realize I'm sure there's already apps out there that could do that for me, but I just wanted to do it myself because I'm a nerd like that. So I love my spreadsheets. I use them for a whole lot. And I think that's one of the greatest inventions ever made. Ches, who, by the way, Ches is our esteemed co-host. He's won many awards for his duties here. At least that's what he tells me. But anyways, thoughts on spreadsheets?
Well, they used to be the bane of my existence because I had to use them for work all the time, and they're always very poorly formatted. But the amount of things you can do in time saving, and especially for the applications you were doing it, as far as tracking things or kind of finding out things quickly and calculating things, there's really nothing better than them. However, I do not utilize them in kind of the same fashion you do. I know a lot of people kind of utilize them in a financial sense for budgeting or things like that. I personally have just used kind of a money management app that kind of calculates it for me. All it really does is emulate Excel, but it just gives me pretty much the boxes to input my value. So I do love the idea of Excel. I don't actually, you probably know a million more formulas than I do, but I always just kept it basic anyways. But yeah, as far as tracking stuff, you definitely do it more than me, but I cannot disagree that it is actually quite important. And a lot of people forget doing it.
So you're telling me that you don't know how many carbs are in per ounce slice of watermelon? Is that what you're telling me?
Unfortunately, I don't have a spreadsheet specifically for watermelon. I do have it for peaches, though, so if you wanted me to share that with you, but I'm sure you probably already have that in a separate tab, yeah. One of 1,000 fruits that you have kind of lined up to find out the sugar content or some other things for it.
Peaches, all well documented, so it's all covered, but thank you for the offer. Well, thank you, everybody, for hopefully you're going to hang out with us, but we got a great show for you today. A little bit newer. Now, we had an episode a while back with Micah, the helicopter pilot, and he flat out told us, I've never listened to a podcast before. And we're like, okay, well, this is going to be about as real as it gets. This episode is pretty real in the sense of Garrett is a member of the community, yes, but not totally active in the chat room. And I mentioned this also during the interview, but it's pretty exciting to just kind of go in blind, not really knowing much about the person. Where some guests, they're always in the chat room talking, hanging out, so you kind of, get to know them a little bit. But here, Ches and I, we're just flat out, literally just, it'd be like us meeting up for coffee, sitting down and saying, hey, let's talk. There's a whole lot of realness to it. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to get across here. So without further ado, we're going to talk with Garrett today, and we're going to figure out kind of where he's at in his journey and where he wants to go. And there's quite a few good little nuggets of information here from his journey. One that includes a whole lot of stubbornness, but you'll get to that as we go through. Well, hey, Garrett, welcome to the podcast.
What's going on, guys?
Not much. Now, Micah here. See, you have nothing to be nervous of. I already screwed up once. We'll start over again. Take two. Hey, Garrett, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Going pretty well. I was telling Garrett beforehand that I don't have to move into a cardboard box or anything, so I haven't like blown my life savings. Ches, are you cardboard box shopping? Or are you all good so far?
I hope the wind isn't too bad. I'm under a bridge right now in my cardboard box, but it seems
You,
pretty calm, so I'm doing okay.
you went big on Priceline and it just didn't work out, huh?
I did. I was along a bunch of calls for 1,500 while price lines at 1,200. So yeah, it just didn't work out for me this week's expiration. So yep, in the cardboard box, sold all my possessions for it.
Nice, nice. And I know Garrett's doing well. But talking with him also, and he goes into the chat room every now and then, but he's not too interactive, which is totally fine. There's no rule that says you have to be interactive to even be on the podcast. So this is kind of interesting in the sense of don't really know much about him, which is totally fine. Thinking back to Micah's podcast. He had never even listened to any podcast before he got started, and that one turned out perfectly fine. So I'm sure this one will be just as good. So, Garrett, again, thank you for hanging out. And let's just start. You said you have listened to many, so you know what this first question is going to be. But where did you first get started in the markets? Kind of where did you hear about it? And, what kind of happened to make you say, you know what, I want to give a go at this?
Well, it started off as a conversation with a family friend. And he was suggesting me I should, put the money I had about like $12,000 at the time into like a hedge fund or a 401k, something to where other people would be touching my money. And I had a huge issue with that. So what I did is I'm like, hey, I got to be able to mess with my money better than these guys. These guys don't care about my money. I'll go see if I can go into the markets myself. So I ran out and opened up that good old E-Trade account.
Oh, not E-Trade. Oh, let me, why did you not want did you earn this money or was it, inherited? Where did this money come from? Because it sounds like you had a pretty big attachment to it if you were just like, look, I'm not letting anybody else touch this money. So where exactly did this money come from?
I saved it up.
That makes sense. That makes a whole lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
So you were like, it took me, X amount of time to save up $12,000, which is by no means a small sum of money. So that makes sense, right, Ches? Somebody, saving up money, you're going to have a lot more psychological attachment to it.
If you had to work hard for that money to get it, and it took, days, months, weeks, years, however long it is, it's much different than if, say, you hit a lotto ticket for 10 grand and then you have it, and then it's usually those people are the ones who blow it immediately because they didn't actually, work for it. So yeah, definitely. But honestly, it really sounds like Garrett kind of understands immediately. And, I'm not here to knock financial advisors and whatever, but in the end, I think everybody who's listening would agree that the person who has your best interest in mind is always going to be yourself. So that's pretty, a wise way to kind of start getting into it. But now I want to hear how your E-Trade endeavors went.
But before we even going into that, what kind of research did you go? Were you thinking, all right, what's out there in the market wise? And, were you looking at mutual funds and then you saw maybe, I don't know, penny stocks, and then you saw option? What exactly did you, stumble across in your research before you even, decided, hey, I want to go with E-Trade?
Well, that's the funny part. There was no research. Well, what happened was I just went ahead and put 500 on the E-Trade account. Absolutely no research done. Only thing I knew about was stocks. So I said, hey, a stock is a stock is a stock. So I just went out and bought a couple of random stocks. No research whatsoever.
So how did you hear about sorry, Chaz, how did you even hear about E-Trade? Was it did you see an E-Trade commercial and you're like, okay, they let me buy stocks baby. Online? Yeah, did you encounter the talk? Like, how do you even hear about E-Trade though if you did no research?
I just remember it just had trade. It's an E-Trade. So I just put it together, and that's literally why I chose E-Trade. No research on choosing a platform, just boom, E-Trade.
I think this may be, we're in that, episode, we're way up above 50 now. I think that you just took the cake in terms of, I saw the word E and then I saw trade. So yeah, I'm going to go with them. He's taking the cake, right? He is now at the pinnacle of the mountain, Ches, I would say, in terms of how he arrived at choosing a broker.
I can't disagree with that. I think I love doing these podcasts because it's always something different. And yes, I think that would definitely kind of define the pinnacle right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I appreciate the honesty. I saw eat, I saw trade. Hey, that'll work. So, but I do like where you're going. You had $12,000, and you said you only put in $500, right?
I only put 5 on the account.
Okay,
Correct.
so whether or not you knew it, you were actually practicing very good risk management skills right from the get-go. So, but as Chad said earlier, I'm very curious to see now how this goes. So you bought two random stocks. How did you even come across these stocks? I realize you said you did no research, but you had to have at least come across them somehow. So what was, how did you stumble across your first couple trades, as we'll call them?
You're right. I would definitely wouldn't call them trades. I even remember what I traded. It was UBIQ, Ubiquity, and I bought that one because for no other reason than it was cheap. It was like $1 something. And then the other one I bought was NDLS, Noodles and Company. And again, I was like, hey, I like eating Noodles and Company. Why not pick up a couple shares, So I went ahead and did that.
So yeah, so the Noodles and Company one, I completely understand. A lot of people, especially if they haven't done a lot of research or anything, what they generally gravitate towards is household names, whether it's GM or Apple products or something like that. So I completely can kind of get that. Now, I'm assuming when you went into this trade, did you? I know we already kind of discussed the lack of planning, research, anything like that. Did you have at all in your mind kind of a time frame you were looking to hold for? Did you have any expectations like I'm going to hold this until it doubles? What was your goal going in? Is obviously we all want to make money, but how did you foresee yourself kind of making money in these?
I wasn't starting off thinking of being a trader. I was more thinking along the lines of I just wanted to own stock, I guess. So be an investor. So I was like, I'm going to buy some stocks and it's just going to magically float up and make me all kinds of money.
Magic like a balloon. We have a chat, or we have a saying in the chat room where sometimes people miss the trade and it's like, oh, I missed the balloon that's floating away. So yeah, perfectly put. It's going to just magically float upwards. And so fair to say you had zero quote unquote plan at all. You were totally making it up as you went, right?
Totally.
And that's not an understatement. You were flying by the seat of your pants. So, how did these first couple trades go? When, did some fool's gold show up and you made money, or did you take losses on them? Tell us about the end results.
I immediately took losses on those positions immediately. And actually, it didn't take very long at all. It was two stocks, and within a month, my account was 50% down.
Okay, so when you say immediately took the loss, you don't mean like you were being good risk management and hey, it's a losing trade, I'm gone. This is just in terms of you got in and they started to go down and went down, and pretty soon, like you said, your account was at 50% of its value. So is that what caused you to finally take those losses, or was there some other kind of catalyst that kind of kicked you in the butt and said, hey, Garrett, we got to take these losses? How exactly did you? What happened in your mind? That's a better way to ask. What happened in your mind that finally said, you know what, I'm tapping out. I want out of these trades?
The voices, I was just like, okay, I lost too much money. Originally, I put the 500 on there and I was like, hey, if I lose 500 learning, fine. But when I started actually taking the losses, I was like, okay, I lost 250. That's enough. I need to learn something before I try to attack this.
So that's a completely common thing to happen. We all have our uncle points, and a lot of people, it doesn't matter how deep your pockets are, how big your trading account is. We all have that spot where we say enough is enough. And the funny thing about it, actually, it's the shorting for profit course. There's actually a strategy in there that concerns kind of people's uncle points generally, and you can kind of use kind of technical analysis to spot it a lot. But I would venture to say this: at your uncle point, I bet you the stock rebounded after you sold out. Do you happen to remember if it did that?
I don't, and the reason I don't is because I didn't look at any charts.
He had the sour taste, Clay. He had the sour taste. The market's rigged to get him. He lost that money. But I do want to commend you. You, like Clay said, you did do your risk management up front by limiting kind of your account size, and you kind of recognize that you need to learn more. So You know what?
Wait,
You'll need to.
let me.
But
When you say you didn't look at charts, you mean you had never looked at charts prior to this, and you still had never looked at charts, so you literally didn't know what the price did afterwards? Is that what you meant, or do you just
No,
you meant you stopped looking at the charts?
well, I had never looked at charts, and I really wasn't paying too much attention to the chart. I just bought into the stock, and I was just hoping it went up, and
Hey,
I just
we don't allow cussing on the show, okay? Don't use that four letter there, hope. Sorry, kids. That's a cuss word around here, Garrett. So, anyways, keep on going. You were hoping, little potty mouth Garrett. Who invited this guy on the show? Anyways, keep on. Yeah.
yeah, I was just hoping it went up, and when I saw the loss, it wasn't really the chart, it was just the loss, the monetary loss, and I was like, well, this is definitely not making me money, so I should get out. I don't want to lose any more money. So that's really why I just pulled out.
And then you just like, I don't even want to know what happens to it anymore. You're kind of, like Chess said, pretty bitter about it, and you just moved on. So it'd be
Yeah,
interesting though.
absolutely.
At some time you should go back, and since you remember those ticker symbols, and try to eyeball when exactly it is, just out of curiosity. I mean, that'd be kind of maybe something a little interesting to see. So and also to echo that, because it's a crucial point, which is why I love these podcasts. None of this is planned or anything, but yeah, risk management. If you are new and listening to this, and maybe you think, you know what, anybody that sells stuff is a scam artist, they're a gimmick. That's fine. You can think that. No offense is taken, because you're absolutely right. Most of it out there is just total garbage. But if you think that, at least just listen to one thing that we have to say here before you turn it off, because you think Ches and I are a bunch of scammers. If you're going to start, just start small. Start like Garrett. If you have a big amount of money, we'll go with Garrett's $12,000. Just start out in the markets with 500. And if you want to go at it on your own, that's perfectly fine. But a valuable lesson here that Garrett did without even realizing it in terms of risk management is start small. So very valuable lesson there for anybody listening. There's more to it than that. Like I said, if you're in the perspective of I'm not paying anybody for anything, then fine, start small. So you take these losses, you're like, all right, I need to learn. I gotta, I can't remember the exact phrase you used, but you got to come up with kind of a better strategy, a better approach to this. So what was your next step after that?
Well, after that, I took to Google and started searching for any knowledge, any information I could find on trading stocks. And I came across all kinds of information, and it was overwhelming information about futures, penny stocks, options, stocks. It was just so overwhelming. I didn't know what direction to start going in.
well,
I got to just let me hop in here. So you were not exaggerating. There was not a figure of speech when you said you did no research, you just bought those stocks. Usually people do the Googling, and then they kind of classify it as I didn't do any research, because they're like, all right, well, Google, in hindsight was never really any research. But you literally didn't even do any of this Googling stuff before you took those first trades. So you were not kidding at all. That you meant that in the literal sense of I didn't even do Googling research, which is, would you agree with that, Ches? Most people at least Google a little bit, and then they, put on a trade. But
usually they like to feel better about themselves and their decisions by reaffirming it with a quick 5 or 10 minute Google search. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get them stuck on YouTube for an hour watching whatever they can get their hands on about a 99.9% Forex strategy robot. But yeah, you weren't exaggerating. Like I said, you kind of really dove in.
so yeah, sorry to cut you off, but I find that actually kind of funny and fascinating, because you literally did nothing. You didn't even do the Google. So you Googled futures, penny stocks, all this information. So, I mean, how was your brain processing? How did you even know what to do at that point?
Well, I really didn't know what to do, but I was determined to figure out. So I kept searching Google, searching YouTube, and I would learn things, but it would just be so much random information. You just don't know where to place it all. And so at this time, I'm looking at futures, and again, I don't really know what's going on, but that's just what I don't know. For some reason, I had it in my head that I wanted to trade futures. Why? I don't know. That's what they sold me on the internet. So
Now, was this kind of based on, I know a lot of stuff and a lot of people trade futures, not just for the indices, but for commodities like soybeans or wheat or corn or whatever. Were was what you were finding online based on making trades with a chart, or was it based on seasonality and cycles, things like that? Because there are people that's just like the fundamental analysis types of trades. But what were you finding, after you decided that you were going to trade futures?
Um, they were everyone I came across that I paid any attention to at least was trading with the chart. However, they always had they wanted to sell their super system, their I don't know, and I never fell for that stuff. Like penny stocks, I just heard was a scam, so I never even looked into it. And um, futures was I didn't want to trade any commodities. I actually was looking at trading the indices. So because on the internet it told me that if I traded the commodities, that I might as well just give away my money.
So at least you had some sort of kind of skeptical radar out there where you were like, all right, penny stocks. Well, then again, I guess it all goes back to the internet told you penny stocks were a scam. Therefore, all right, well, I can't trade penny stocks. And the internet told you to trade indices. So therefore, I'm going to trade. So you're listening to the internet, but at the same time, which is good, but at other times, it's probably not so bad that you're listening to the internet, or it is bad that you're listening to the internet. So where did you finally end up on? Did you ever fund a futures account or, give that a go with any real money?
A little later on, I did. Before I actually went and got a futures account, it was a year and a half later. That's
Oh,
actually fairly recently.
okay. So I'm guessing that's a whole different spot that you're in. So you just obviously you determined that all right, I don't want to do futures, or you didn't want to do futures enough to the point of willing to kind of put your money where your mouth was. So where did kind of this all this Googling stuff eventually lead you to then in terms of wanting to put some real money on the line?
Well, the googling and sorry excuse for self teaching went on for maybe a year, if not a little over. I mean, I was really determined to not spend any money and learn how to do this, and I didn't really care how much time it took, until I realized that wasn't going to happen that way. But um, it was just a little over a month ago that I actually went in and actually tried to trade futures. But luckily, that wasn't the only information that I came across in my research, because once I started trying to trade futures, I quickly changed my mind.
Change your mind how?
I was taking losses like, my account size was definitely not um, where it needed to be trying to take the losses of trading futures.
And that comes back to risk management. And another thing I really want to kind of point out as well for listeners is the fact that I was in Garrett's shoes at one point. I was determined, and I think it's safe to say, and Clay would actually agree, you can learn everything you need to learn about trading on the internet. The problem with it is the internet is wide and vast, and you need to kind of weed through the crap. And I'm not lying; it could take you years to find good information, and I'm still not promising you would even be able to put it together in a logical way that would help you progress as a person. And I actually was not a believer at all of you get what you pay for in this world, and it's as like a whole. I always thought, oh, I could, if I want to pirate movies, I could download that, video games, whatever that is. It wasn't until I started getting involved in trading education that I realized, I'm gonna have to put forth some money here to actually learn from somebody who knows what they're doing. It really is no different than going to like college or a trade school or something. You're gonna have to learn from somebody who knows what they're doing, because anybody can put out a YouTube video and say, well, I would have magically bought the bottom and magically sold the top. So, but obviously, you're trading in an account in a way that is not kind of conducive risk wise. So, you kind of recognize that you're having drawdowns in your futures account. Did you blow up that account, or was this another instance like in the beginning where you just kind of reached your uncle point and, hit the stop button?
Oh, I hit the stop button really quick. I didn't want to keep going. I just knew I was like, at this point, I was like, okay, I've done so much research, and if I still can't become somewhat profitable, then I need to go and do some more research. And at that point, that's when I said, hey, I'm going to try to find a course to purchase.
So you finally decided upon, you know, I'm willing to spend some money on a course after about a year and a half worth of just I'm going to do it on my own. Any reason? I'm trying to. Are you like just super? Are you a tightwad with your money? Where was it? Let's talk psychology here. What were the voices saying to you that just said you're not spending money on anything? You're not spending money on anything. Where did that come from? Why did you feel that way?
What do you, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
I mean, you made the comment that, you know what, I don't need to pay anything. I can figure this all out on my own. What was the driving force behind that when I'm sure you've stumbled across, courses and trainings out there, that people, do charge money for, but you just refused to do it because you wanted to do it on your own. And you said, you spent literally a year researching the internet and all that sort of stuff. What was that motivation to the refusal to want to, invest in any sort of education?
Because there's so many scams out there. There are so many scams. And I was like, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose my money to a scam. I've never minded paying for good information. I just don't want to pay for a scam. And something I did see early on in this community is that there are a lot of sharks out there, and they're just waiting for you. They prey on the get rich quick, which was never really a problem for me, but I see it happen all the time. And
so you saw, the people on their yachts and the people with their fancy cars and the marketing with the beautiful women, and you just were like, that's just late night infomercial marketing, and that just pretty much turns you off to the whole side of the business in terms of paying to learn something. Is that a fair assessment?
that is definitely a fair assessment.
Okay, so well, good for you. You should be skeptical. Now you were definitely skeptical, and you didn't, like you said, I don't want to lose my money to a scam, and I get it. And I can totally. I was just asking more of that out of curiosity, but that's a totally logical answer to me. And for all you listeners out there, yeah, definitely be skeptical out there. Be skeptical of Ches and I. That we're just two dudes out here doing a podcast. So I mean, this is the internet, right? You gotta be skeptical of things, and you gotta make sure. So very good point there. So you finally decided, what, I want to start to search for a course. So how did this search go? And I guess take it from there.
Well, I decided to give Google a break, and I switched over to YouTube. Not that was a much better, but at least I had visuals now. And I found one of the local gurus, and I purchased a course on day trading. And I went through it, and it was a little helpful, but some of the things I saw this guy do, I'm like, this is not the guy for me to learn from. He was like marketing in at the open and just hoping that it bounced off the gap. And, at one time it didn't, and he took like a $500 loss, and he's like, oh, I was just like, no. Even my Google research led me to say, no, this guy's not it.
So he was pretty much just, like you said, buying at the open, marketing in, and then hoping. I mean, that sounds like pretty much the strategy there.
That seemed like to be his strategy, which, was odd. I mean, I really, his information on YouTube seemed pretty solid. I don't know what's wrong with his courses.
Well, something wasn't right because, like you said, that sounds kind of goofy to me on a strategy. So I'd say good gut instincts there, because that doesn't sound like a very consistent and profitable strategy over the long term. So, well, you took that course, that didn't go well. So where did you go from there?
Well, I didn't go back into a hole and not want to purchase anything on, ever again. So I regrouped, and I said, all right, let me go out here and find another course. So I went searching, and I went searching YouTube, and that's when I saw you.
Dun, dun. I wish I had. We need to get some sound effects on here, like
We do need to get some sound effects on here.
yeah. So, all right. So, how did you come across me? Was it like a video chart analysis or a live trade video? Do you remember what exact video you eventually stumbled on?
It was a video chart analysis, and it's kind of funny because I saw all those charts, and I'm seeing all these penny stock charts, and I'm like, I don't want to trade penny stocks. But I'm looking at you go through the chart, and I'm like, man, this guy really seems like he knows what he's doing. But I'm like, I don't want to trade penny stocks though. So I kind of passed over it, at least for maybe a couple weeks, and then I actually reached out to you, and I was like, man, it seems like you know what you're doing, but I don't want to trade penny stocks. And you messaged me back, and you said, oh no, I have other stuff too. You know, I do options, stocks. So I'm like, okay. So I checked out the website, and took the leap.
Now, what did you take the leap with? Did you join the inner circle, or what was your leap?
I went straight CTU.
You went straight CTU. You were not messing around.
No, I wasn't messing around. I was tired. I already wasted a year and a half, and I definitely came to the conclusion that I was not going to be learning about stocks on my own, at least not in the near future.
And okay. See, this is the interesting thing. I thought I remembered. All right, maybe I think Garrett, if I remember, but I get lots of emails and I answer lots of emails. So out of curiosity, the other guy, that first course you bought, did you ever try to contact him?
No, I didn't contact him.
I'm always curious if other people respond to emails out there. I know some people, they flat out don't at all. So I'm always kind of curious. But anyways, that's besides the point. So you jumped in, and I had no idea, because we do have some guests coming up where they are not, ClayTrader University students, and which is fine. But yeah, so I didn't know if you were one of them or not. So I was kind of on the genuine edge of my seat. I didn't know where that was going to go. So you jumped in, and you
became a millionaire futures trader immediately, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I have about 3 Lamborghinis in the back. The helicopter is going to be picking me up here soon.
Okay, well, we'll make sure to honor that time schedule. Well, our cue will be when we hear the rotors of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got to go. See you, Garrett.
That did not, Chaz, that sounded like a UFO, not a helicopter. All right. We definitely need some real sound effects, because
he might be able to afford a UFO. You don't know.
Valid point. So you hopped into CTU, and what was the first course you take? Did you ever take the penny stock one, or did you just skip right to robotic trading?
I jumped right into robotic trading.
And did that kind of open your eyes to, wow, there's a whole lot more to charts than what I had figured out in all my free research? Or, what did you think of that? Because obviously you took the one course, you were not happy with it. So I am a little nervous in asking this, but please be honest. So if you thought it was terrible, I guess let me know. But yeah, so what did you think? Did that kind of start to open your eyes to things, or were you still a bit skeptical?
It was a sigh of relief.
Oh, I'm relieved over here.
It took me no time to see. I was just, it was just so relieving. I'm like, okay, finally, I found a means to an end, because CTU is definitely a means to an end for traders. But yeah, I just went through Robotic Trader. I went through the courses exactly as you had laid it out.
So you went through skill sharpening too?
Correct.
Did you do it? Did you print out the guides and do it like hands-on and all that sort of stuff?
I didn't print out the guide. However,
Garrett,
it's okay. I didn't print it out either. I'm conscious of the environment. I live in California.
Where's my paddle at? I got a couple different. Ches and Garrett. What? All right.
However,
Anyways. However. Okay.
In my defense, every time I took a course, since I have 2 screens, on one screen I'd have the market up, and on one screen I'd have your courses up. So I was kind of going along with you while you were teaching things, or if I would, you know, anything I learned in CTU, I would go immediately and apply it.
Putting it into practice, that's good because that definitely kind of helps make it stick.
Yeah.
Now, just for some context here, how long did you spend kind of going through the courses?
Um, it probably took me a week and a half, but I binged watched them. You know, I
You
really
got
took a
through all
lot.
those courses in a week and a half?
Probably like a week and a half, 2 weeks.
You are not
Well,
kidding when you said you binge watched them, then, because that's
that's
what would be
that's a
required.
binge. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a binge. But yeah, people do that. I did that too. And whenever a course would come out, some of them I could finish in like a couple days. And Clay was like, "How'd you get through 20 hours in a couple days?" It's like, well, I don't sleep that much. But all right, so you've kind of gone through the courses now. You know, the real eye-opening thing for me was that it was just so apparent. You know, even after kind of robotic trading, is that I was so prone to buying in the worst spot possible, and I just kind of needed to have my eyes open. And you know, you can kind of see that easily in a lot of charts. But you know, you said you're applying it while you're learning it, and you know, how's your practice going at this point?
Practice is going okay. Practice is going okay. It's definitely not where I want it, and you know, I got off of the whole futures thing, and I'm actually into options. Directional options is my deal. You know, so that's what I'm working on mastering.
So at the time of this recording in your trading journey, you are currently paper trading options. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, sweet. Well, I want to go back to now that we've kind of caught up in the whole, journey of things. The futures you did try with real money though, right?
I sure did.
And that was, like you said, you realized that your losses were going to be too big for the size of your account. Now, do you think you would have realized that, way back when Garrett was first getting involved in the market, or, was that because you actually kind of understood the market a lot better at this point?
Oh, that's definitely because I understood the market a lot better at this point.
So is it safe to say that you could have lost a lot more money had you not understood, what you do now? Because it sounds like, sure, it didn't quite work out, but it didn't work out because you're like, wait a second, I got to tap the brakes here. But earlier, the old Garrett would not have tapped the brakes. So would that have caused a pretty nasty account crash, or, could things have been much worse than what they ended up turning out to be?
They definitely could have. They
Okay.
definitely could have.
Because I think that's always fascinating is, when you don't know what you don't know, you can really get yourself into trouble. But at least Garrett knew enough to be like, all right, let's slow down here. Let's just get back on paper before, things just get totally nasty. So well done to you. Because, I mean, I don't know about you, Ches, but yeah, when I was first getting started, I just didn't know to tap the brakes. And it was just a nasty sight for me. So, I mean,
It's interesting you say that because I was just, if you guys don't know, I interact with people who are, not only members, but, thinking of becoming members or just kind of inquiring about the site in general. It is amazing to me. And just like you said, when you don't know what you don't know, you might not even be able to comprehend the risk you have on. And some of the stuff that I hear from people, and they're just like, well, what do you mean this 10,000 share position on this stock with a $5,000 account is silly? It's no problem, it's going to go my way at all. And I'm like, you do understand that if it moves like a quarter against you, your account is blown, right? You don't know, and you kind of have this confidence, but it's just amazing. And I don't know if it's just multiple years in the market now, but I approach things more fearful, not because I don't have a plan, just because I assume the market is always going to go against me. And that's why I stress this all the time, is that the only thing we can manage as trader is really keeping our downside as small as possible. So yeah, it's amazing when you don't know these things, how, you have no comprehension of kind of the risk you might be taking.
yeah, so that's actually super. I mean, Garrett, well done to you. Because it's not easy. I mean, especially if I'm putting myself in your shoes. You've gone through courses, you invested, you're trying something out, and it's hard to be like, man, I don't, something's not right here. So good job to you to realize and be like tapping the brakes. You didn't fail at it. You just realized, because going back to the whole discussion, you now know what you didn't know. Hey, I got to chill out a little bit. So well done to you in terms of just slowing down a little bit. So you're doing options right now directionally. I mean, do you have any strategies that you are favoring one of the, let me ask this. Do you prefer to go long or short?
I definitely prefer short for sure. Um, but I'll go either way.
Oh, good. That was a quiz question. I masked the quiz question there because the proper answer should be, look, I'm ready to roll with whatever punches the market gives me. So, well done, Garrett. Do you attend webinars ever?
I do. I've been to.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I recognize the Garrett in the webinars.
I sure do. I've been to two at this point.
All right. So you know that I ask questions and those things, and I just asked you a mass one there. So well done. So you prefer to go short, but you have no problem going long if the opportunity presents itself. So, I mean, let's talk about your actual chart. What is on your chart? Do you have like 40 different indicators, or, what are you staring at?
I'm looking at a couple moving averages, Bollinger Bands, price action, volume. That's my game right there.
So you got candlesticks, you got some volume bars, Bollinger Bands, moving averages. I mean, did I miss that? That's it?
And I won't lie. The MACD is sitting there, but I hardly ever look at it.
It's decoration, right? I have a MACD, but I call it like my decoration indicator. I feel too guilty if I don't even have the MACD on my chart. So don't worry.
Are you telling me that you didn't combine 12 indicators to find when they all line up once every decade that you take that trade? Are you telling me you didn't find the Holy Grail?
Well, I did, but I charge 99 cents per week if you want to get access to that.
Oh,
Chaz.
okay.
So,
it's the Holy
yeah.
Grail trading system. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's text alerts that are sent to you, and if the
Okay.
text system goes down, carrier pigeons deliver the alerts. So that's how all
great.
that works.
They're definitely not late to the party at all. They are some fast carrier pigeons, very lean and strong and fast.
Yeah, but you're like Garrett. You refuse to spend 99 cents on my carrier pigeon alert. So I don't know what's up with you guys and your gut instincts. But anyway, so your chart is very basic. Chaz, I think you have a question for him about his routines.
Yeah. So Garrett, what would you say are kind of some typical routines you do? Whether that's preparing the night before. Some people prepare kind of the morning of. Do you not prepare at all? What's your kind of approach to the market?
Well, I'm constantly looking at the markets. They're always pull up on at least one screen. So usually I'll prepare the night before so I don't have to get up too early. I'm on the West Coast as well. I'm in Lakeside, California. So
Screw
it's
you.
early.
I don't like California people because whenever I ask on the webinars, hey, what's the weather like? The California people are always like, oh, it's like 70 degrees here as it's snowing here in Michigan. So I'm jealous. That was my envy coming out of me.
The sun isn't out today and it's 66. So I
66,
mean,
so
it's
bad.
pretty tough. It's pretty tough.
Anyway, sorry to cut you off, but as soon as I heard about your friend, I'm like, oh, great, here we go. Another Californian or whatever you guys are called.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous of you, Clay. You get to wake up late. The market here is.
That's true. That's a good argument.
early.
I am in the Eastern time zone, so that's a fair argument. So I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm a jerk like that. So anyways, back to your routine. You're on the West Coast, so you can pick back up.
But y'all usually, I'll prepare the night before, and I'll get up about 6 and make sure everything's still looking good and the plan from last night still going good, and see what I think the market may do. You never know, but
Well said. Let me ask this. You said make sure everything's are looking good. Define looking good. What does that mean to you now? Because I have a feeling that looking good from the Garrett way back when to the Garrett right now, would be a totally different definition. So in your words right now, what is looking good?
well, I just look at like how the chart's moving. Are there any patterns that are forming nicely? Anything like that? Anything that can give me an edge, so I could say, okay, the market may move this direction.
So I'll insert a little bit, but I'm assuming you're looking for trends and patterns, and you said it. You took the word right out of my mouth. Edge. You're looking for an edge, and that's what looking good now. And you know how to find the edge now, right? And what you're working on right now in your paper trading is how good am I at finding the edge? Is that a pretty fair statement?
That's exactly what I'm doing.
And I guess with it, how is it actually going so far? I mean, paper trading, you're finding your groove, you're finding the edge. And like I said, as we talk right now, at the time of this recording, that's where you're at. So how is it actually going so far? How are you feeling confidence-wise? And we'll kind of see where this discussion takes us.
At this point, I'm feeling pretty good. I would probably say right now I'm probably like break even on paper, I'm losing just as much as I'm winning, and I'm okay with that right now. I mean, it's only been 1 month that I've been looking into options, and there's no live money, so I'm not upset about breaking even on paper.
Well,
But
Ches has a great part of his journey, and I like his sequence. So Ches, why don't most traders lose money, and then you know what I'm talking about, Ches. So talk about the kind of cycle of how traders usually evolve.
So most people cut themselves off at the leg immediately on their journey because they jump into the market blindly. They're competing against professionals, and generally they lose all of their money before they ever give themselves a chance. However, those who are smart enough to kind of recognize kind of the power of education, that if you want to compete in this arena, you're going to have some tools and kind of figure out where you fit. But yeah, the first real stage is definitely going from a losing trader to a break-even trader. So the fact that you're already doing that in a month's time, considering you switched from futures to options, and options have a lot of complexities, that they're not going to blow your mind overly complicated, but there are some differences, a huge differences between futures and options. But the real process is you got to go to break even trading, and you might bounce around there. You might be up a little bit, down a little bit, up a little bit, down a little bit. And the thing is that as you start to kind of develop more familiarity with it, the more you get comfortable with it, the more it kind of becomes second nature. As kind of odd as that sounds, that's when you start to kind of break that trend, and your equity curve, if you're managing your risk right. Like I said, if you guys didn't notice, I've said risk about 30 times this podcast. If you manage your risk correctly, that equity curve starts to trend up nicely. And it took me a while to kind of figure that out. I'm not going to lie here and say I became, like when people join CTU, we say they become millionaires the next week after going through the courses. You got to kind of find your spot and your place in it. So I personally did absolutely generally horrible trading anything directionally. I'm definitely better at it now, but I still utilize kind of advanced options to keep me in a much less directional faced way. I'm definitely a much better neutral trader, range trader. And that's just me. And like I said, everybody's got to find their place. So the fact that you're breaking even after a month of kind of learning a brand new product, I actually think you're ahead of the game. And, especially considering you digested the courses in like a week's time, I know you're pretty serious about this, and you're probably staring at charts all day.
Yeah, I gotta just comment real quick here, just because I'll confess, like I don't know but to me, I fell in the camp of there's two stages. You're either making money or you're losing money. But I was like, but when Ches brought that up, and I think in the first podcast episode 1, when I talked to him, he talked about the evolution kind of cycle of a trader, and I just never thought, oh, that's true. You lose money, and then the next stage is not to make money, just get up to freaking break even. And then break even, you build upon there. So, yeah. So shame on me for just totally always skipping over that, like I think a lot of people do. Or, a lot of people I think just classify breaking even as like being terrible. Well, keep in mind, there's that other choice of you're consistently losing money. So, yeah, definitely good job to you, Garrett. But as it stands right now, what are some strengths that you're realizing in yourself? But also, what are some weaknesses, some things that you're going to need to work on before you actually go back to live money?
okay, well, some strengths is my own resilience. I'm not going to give up, and I recover good from losses. Like if I take a loss, just like the losses back in the day, if I take a loss, I just move on, forget about it happened, and I don't let it ruin me.
Especially more so now. Hopefully you understand losses are part of the business, right? I mean, there's two types of traders out there, those that take losses, and then there's liars. So, I mean, hopefully you even have that much better context now that, hey, losses happen. So you're good at taking losses. And yes, I will echo, you are very resilient. And I would say you're quite stubborn too, which is good because you're stubborn in the sense of, let's go. I'm going to keep going. So I like that. But what are some things you think you should probably work on before, you go live?
I think I should work on. What do I need to work on?
I just Chris Hansen him, man. He has no idea.
Yeah, you got him good there.
Yeah.
If you go into the trading, I tend to chase, and I don't like that. So I've really been working on don't chase.
Excellent. Good recognition, because that's a terrible habit. That's a terrible thing to be doing. So it's bad that you do it, but even better that you that you have caught yourself and you realize that you're chasing. Because most people, and Ches can echo that, heck, today in the chat room, I saw somebody, well, I figured I was going to buy, I'm buying the top, and I bought anyways. I'm like, well, if that is not chase, that's, so I won't go on a rant about that. But yeah, so good job recognizing that. Anything else that you kind of realize that you're doing and you want to get fledged out?
Uh, no, I really think about these things, and I really try to, stay on top of it, so that, I try to stay on top of the things that I need to be doing to get there.
And chasing will certainly cost you a lot of money, but like Clay said, it's more important that you kind of recognize that. And for me personally, that was easily my biggest problem. Is first I would chase the price up too high because I was looking for too much confirmation. And the
I remember
solution
those
for me,
days, Jess. I remember those days.
they were the
I'd
worst.
email, yeah, I'd email you and be like, dude, man, what do you want the
I
chart to
needed to
slap
wait
you in
for,
the face?
yeah, I needed it to make the whole move before I would buy. So now I'm convinced it's going to go up, and then that's of course the time it immediately reverses because that was the whole move. But I waited for the whole thing to happen. I was very good at that, and I used to joke in the chat that if I had only traded the opposite of everything I wanted to do, I would be super rich. And I'm not the only person who thinks that. But I can promise you that first off, you recognize it, which is already, absolutely key. You don't think that the market is out to get you. It's just, you have to figure out where your vision needs to be and how to fix that. So what I did personally, this is just a little tip. You can take it or you don't. Obviously, everybody goes at their own pace. I had to set up levels that I wanted to buy or go short at before the chart ever reached that point. And then when it did that, I'd have my orders there, so I couldn't actually question myself and say, well, just kidding, I'll let it kind of confirm a little bit for me. And of course, you test it on paper, see if that works for you, whatever method you're using for kind of entry and exit. But I'm getting off topic in the sense of that I want to ask you the most important question of the entire podcast. No, it's not what movie is your favorite, because that question doesn't matter. Everybody comes on this podcast because they want to know, if I was to lend them my time machine, which is very costly and time consuming to build, and you could go back to kind of the start of your trading journey when you open up that E-Trade account, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
I would say watch where you're getting your information from, because there's so much information out there, and a lot of it is bad information.
And at the end of the day, it is random information. I think that's where the most difficult part comes from. Is it? Yeah, there is. You're absolutely right. There is some just flat out bad information, but it could be all good information. But the randomness of it could therefore make it bad, because you're getting it in a random sequence, and it's not. It's just not going to make any sense. So just remember that. Lots of good information, but looked at in a random fashion can ultimately kind of dilute itself and just turn it bad. So yeah, that's a good answer. Well, Garrett, I hope you're ready, because this is when we get super serious here at the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. What is your favorite movie?
Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I prepared for this one. I actually
Good. Most people, I'm glad you're prepared, because a lot of people say, "Yeah, I listen to the podcast," and then I ask that question, like, oh, like they didn't know it was coming, and it's just like,
No,
come
it
on.
proves that they don't listen to the end of the podcast. That's what it proves.
That's
We're
true.
going to start having quizzes at the end of the podcast. We're going to tell people to remember this phrase or something.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We need to start calling those people out. Like, oh, so you listen to the internet. Anyways, we're getting off topic. What is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Bueller. Yeah, see, I got to quote. That's a good movie. Chaz, have you ever seen it?
Not only have I seen it, what the house or whatever was not. We could drive past it. I think it's back in Illinois. I think it's a city that starts with a G or something. But yes, it's a good movie, and that was a really hard quote there, Clay. The title of the movie is in it, but yes, that is a good quote and is a classic quote. But Garrett, what would you say is your favorite meal and dessert?
Anything Japanese. I like sushi, tempura, all that stuff. Anything Japanese, I like.
Nice.
Dessert.
I'd get behind you. Oh, sorry, dessert. Yeah, my bad. See, you have listened. He listens to the ends because he knows what the next question is. Mm-hmm. Dessert.
A dessert. Maybe. See, I'm not a big sweet person, but if you push me, maybe I don't know, apple pie. I really like apple pie.
I mean, that's pure America right there. So you can't go wrong with an apple pie. I mean, you just don't get any more American than that. What about hobbies? What do you like to do outside of the markets?
anything health and fitness related, hiking, walking, just anything outside.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, what would you say are 3 words you believe should be associated with successful trading?
You definitely have to be patient. You definitely have to be confident and resilient.
I like that. I like confident a lot. I don't think many people have chosen confident, but that's true. If you're not going to be confident in yourself, then this place will eat your lunch for sure. You gotta. Now, there's a big difference between confident and cocky, but you definitely do have to have some confidence in yourself. Because this is not a place for the lighthearted. Well, hey Garrett, we gotta wrap things up. And you are actually somebody that volunteered to be on the podcast, which we truly do appreciate because it makes our life easier and not having to hunt people down. So thank you for that, and also just thank you in general for hanging out with us this afternoon.
Oh, thank you guys for having me.
Well, for you listeners out there, hopefully you enjoyed the show. And if you're listening on the website, then please click that share button, leave us a comment below. We do read those and we'll reply. If you're listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast players, then leave us a ranking, subscribe, and just keep up to date on all the different content that we have coming. So, and always feedback is appreciated. So you can shoot us emails, contact us on social media, whatever floats your boat. So thank you again for hanging out with us. We will see you back next week.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the ClayTrader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit ClayTrader.com.